My name is Biondo Biondi. I am a professor of geophysics at Stanford University. I am a seismologist, and I came here today to talk about an exciting new experiment of using fiber optic cables that are buried under the ground to get us the videos, the web information for everyday life, and to use them to record seismic waves that propagate under the ground, either caused by natural sources like earthquakes or ocean waves, or by man-made sources, can be traffic, quarry blast, and so on. Fiber optic cables is used for telecommunication purposes, in which a signal that is generated using a laser is sent from one end to the other of the cable. We can also use these cables to interrogate them with what we call the laser interrogator, and from that we can measure how longer and shorter the cable gets, even really tiny amounts. And therefore, when we do have a seismic wave hitting the cable gets a little shorter and longer, and that changes in length of the cable are recorded by the interrogator, and they are converted into a seismic signal. It has its advantages and disadvantages, so I see that as being complementary with conventional network of seismic sensors. The big advantage is potentially give us many more sensors. We are talking about having a sensor every few meters of the cable for much less money, and in particular also allows us to have the sensors under cities or built-up environment, or potentially even under the ocean, that conventional seismometers will be impossible or incredibly expensive to deploy. The disadvantage is that each of those sensors is less accurate and less sensitive than a conventional seismometer. So we are somewhat trading quantity for quality, but the quantity go beyond just the number, is just the potential uniformity and of having these sensors everywhere under a city or under a metropolitan area like the Bay Area or Los Angeles. The idea is tapping into the fiber optic network that telecommunication companies have deployed, and they're continuously deploying to provide the society with the telecommunication services. And that is part of the novelty of our project, is that indeed we experimented with the fiber optic that was laying in telecommunication infrastructure, so in a conduit that was few meters under Stanford campus, and we recorded data out of that fiber optic cable. No, we don't, but that would be our next step. And there are two areas that are particularly exciting to me. One is under San Francisco, because it's so difficult to record conventional seismic data under a city like San Francisco. And so that will be a very exciting experiment. Another one, since it's just in my backyard, I see that from my office window, is to have a cable across the San Andreas Fault in the San Francisco Peninsula, and to actually listen to the fault, every little noise that the fault makes, and potentially that helps us to understand better the way that the San Andreas Fault actually works. What we learned that indeed we can leverage the telecommunication infrastructure to build what I call a billion sensor array. That is, of course, is not a goal for tomorrow. I hope that will be, I say jokingly before that I retire, but is potentially the way that the cost of the technology are going, and the fact that more and more fiber optics cables are deployed under metropolitan areas like San Francisco or like Los Angeles. I think that is a goal that could be achieved in not too long time. The bets are still in the hundreds of dollars per seismometer. What I'm talking about is potentially is in the order of $10 per seismometer per sensor. There are a few challenges to get there. One is getting access to the cables, so having agreements with the telecommunication companies to get access to their cables. And the other one that the specialized hardware that now is used to convert fiber optics cable into seismometers is fairly expensive because there was a lot of engineering that goes into it for a relatively limited number of equipment that is being used and sold. However, if we expand the use to very broad networks, that cost can go really down, and that will help to bring down to around $10 a sensor. Absolutely, and the advantage for them is that potentially this idea of continuously monitor the ground shaking can be an additional value added to their network, and so can be, now it would be for scientific purposes, however, can actually turn out to be an income generator for the owners of that fiber optic cables network. Beyond kind of the general good of society or for homeowners that have insurance, I think that will very much help them to estimate what is the resiliency of their own infrastructure, their own network to potential major seismic events. We are talking about potentially huge amount of data. We are talking about terabytes a day potentially generated. So I don't think that even with the PC of the future, homeowners can do much with that. However, will benefits because the authorities and insurance company, they will get a much higher resolution information on what is the resilience of the vulnerability of their home to earthquake events, and as such the homeowners can get ready, potentially retrofitting their homes, buying earthquake insurance at a rate that is indeed correlated to the hazard to their particular home. So in that sense, I think that every homeowner in California can benefit from that.